Welcome to the Rise and Grind Workshop. If you guys are new here, my name is Ryan, and if you're in the market for a budget CO2 desktop laser engraver full of premium features, this right here might be the unit just for you guys. I want to give a big thank you to the amazing team over at Monport for sending us out this new unit. This is the all-new Reno 65 Pro desktop CO2 laser engraver. This laser features a powerful 65-watt CO2 glass laser tube. In this video, I'm going to take you through the entire process of getting this unit unboxed. I'm going to show you how to get it set up, and I'm going to do a complete overview. Now I know when it comes time to purchasing your very first CO2 laser engraver, there's lots of questions after you order this thing off of the Monport website, and I'm going to have a link to that down below as well as this specific model. Obviously, this thing was delivered in this large crate right here, and one of the things that's really nice about this desktop laser engraver, this simply came via FedEx, and it was extremely easy to get offloaded and moved here in the workshop. If you've watched some of my past videos, I have plenty of pro tips about freight delivery and what a nightmare they can be. This thing arrived in a couple days, and the entire weight of this unit was about 100 pounds inside of the crate, and the net weight of the laser engraver itself is about 89 pounds. Now I know most of you, once you place that order, you're gonna be full of nerves and excitement wondering what kind of package is this gonna come in and what are the size and dimensions. So the first thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna give you some overall dimensions of this crate right now. And starting with the width, you are looking at 44.5 inches. The depth of the unit is 32 inches, and the overall height will be 17 inches. Now in the past, I've had some of these smaller lasers delivered in something like a cardboard box, and they often run the risk of getting damaged during the shipping process, so it was really nice to see that Monport took the extra care and spent the extra time and money and packaged this in a nice crate. We're simply going to use a hammer, and the lid is simply held on with some industrial staples. We're just going to use the back side of our hammer and work our way around the top and get the lid off of this thing. Now with that lid removed, let's go ahead and remove the foam packaging inside. Next up, you'll want to pay attention to the bracing they have at all four corners and the top and the bottom. Depending on how comfortable you feel, you're going to need to remove those braces so that you can start to remove the front, back, and side panels. Once again, we're just going to use our hammer. Now, just in case you missed it earlier in the video, the net weight of this unit, according to the Monport website, is about 89 pounds. So for today, I'm rocking it solo. I don't have any help, but that's something that's really nice about a lightweight desktop CO2 laser engraver. I'm gonna go ahead and just manhandle this thing and get it right up here, and this is gonna be a perfect work spot for it. That was easy. So here's your first glimpse at the Reno 65. The side of this unit is made out of aluminum, and it's got this really neat red stripe across the front. I'm really liking the style of this. Let's go ahead and remove this plastic covering. Now that we have that initial plastic covering removed, let's go ahead and remove the blue tape that's holding that lid secure. And again, Monport has taken extra care and covered not only the cover, but all the other components on the top side of this laser engraver to prevent it from getting scratched or damaged during shipping. With those removed, you should now have access to that front cover. Now that we have the unit out of the crate and sitting up here on the work table, let me get you some overall dimensions of the bare unit itself. The overall width of this unit is going to be 39.5 inches. The overall depth front to back is 27 inches. And the height is going to be about 11.5 inches. Now that we can access the inside of the laser, let's go ahead and lift up the front cover or lid and slowly start to remove all the foam packaging from inside. Just take your time and be gentle so you don't bend or damage anything. And once again, guys, Monport has done an excellent job protecting this laser during the shipping process. You're going to want to remove the cardboard box, another big piece of foam. This right here is your gantry or your X-axis. Go ahead and gently move this forward, and then that's going to allow you to access these foam components in the back side here. Now this is going to give you a glimpse inside of the Reno 65 Pro, and this unit features a honeycomb bed, and of course this is covered in some plastic wrap as well, again taking great care to protect this thing during the shipping process. Now let's go ahead and reverse the process and take a hold of this gantry and move it back. That's going to allow us to reach in here and access this honeycomb panel, and let's go ahead and remove that as well. Right here, this is commonly known as the knife blades, and these typically are going to go down here in the base of the laser, and then your honeycomb is going to rest on top of this. Let's go ahead and remove those as well. Now that we have all the contents removed from the Reno 65, let's quickly go over this. Right here inside of this little clear bag, you're going to get the Allen wrench, which is going to control the manual focus up and down. You're going to get a USB cord, your power plug, some safety glasses, and some other various tools to help maintain the Reno 65. On top of that, they've also included some very nice ducting, and this is going to work for your exhaust fumes in the back of the laser as well. And these are the knife blades that I was referring to, and in just a minute, I'm going to show you how to install these in that Reno 65, as well as getting this honeycomb bed in there. And I must say, I am really happy to see that they did include the honeycomb tray. I have received some other lasers in the past, and the honeycomb tray was not included. That was an additional purchase. That is not the case with this Monport Reno 65. Now let's give you some inside to inside measurements where you can actually laser engrave. You're going to be looking at 23 3/4 for the length. And then as far as the depth goes, you're going to be looking at about 16 1/8. So here's a closer look at these knife blades. You're going to want to position these with the tapered end facing up, and this is pretty self-explanatory. You're going to notice a series of channels inside of the laser base. You're simply going to take these knife blades and drop them in those little channels, rinse and repeat till you have everyone installed. Now go ahead and make sure that gantry is at the back of the unit, and you can lay your honeycomb tray on top of those knife blades. Now one thing you will notice with this version, this honeycomb tray is just sitting on top of the knife blades. It would be really nice to see if they had actually had some indicator points or some type of alignment tabs. However, that is not a major deal breaker, just something for future thoughts. Most of your entry-level laser engravers will include a basic water pump. At the end of the day, this is a CO2 laser engraver, and all CO2 laser engravers really need an industrial water chiller. An industrial water chiller is going to prolong the life of your tube and give you consistent results, as well as increase the performance. We will not be using this for our setup. For our setup, we're going to be using... That's right, the amazing team over at Monport was gracious enough to make sure they sent us out one of their industrial water chillers. And again, a little bit later in the video when I start to set this unit up, I'm going to show you how to plumb this water chiller unit. Now let's go ahead and do a quick walk around and cover some of the features on the Reno 65 Pro. The Pro version is going to feature a DSP controller. What does that mean to you? That means this unit is compatible with the very popular Lightburn software, and they also have a USB drive right here on the side. Now looking at the side of the machine, you're going to have your emergency stop button, you're going to have your main power switch. Now go ahead and locate the supplied USB cable, and that is going to plug in right here, and this is what type of connection we're going to be using to connect to our PC and get Lightburn set up. Now earlier I mentioned how much I really liked the aesthetic look of this anodized red aluminum piece here in the front. Not only is this for visual looks, but if you slide this to the right or the left, this is going to allow you to engrave a piece much larger. This is what you call a front pass-through. Now moving to the back side of the unit, it's pretty self-explanatory. You're going to find your power input. So we're going to go ahead and use the power cable that was supplied, and you can only insert that one way. Next up, you're going to have an earth wire connection right here. Above that, if you did not order a chiller or you don't plan to run on that chiller, you can go ahead and use the supplied pump I showed you earlier, and that right there is going to be the outlet, and you'll notice this is only a 2-prong outlet. Right next to that, in the center of the machine, this is our port where we're going to run our exhaust tubing to vent those laser fumes. And last but not least, over here on the far right-hand side, these are going to be the water line connections that we're going to hook up to the chiller in a little bit. So for now, go ahead and locate your exhaust tubing, and we're going to go ahead and use a hose clamp and get that connected right now. So this right here is the Monport CW5200, and this is an industrial chiller. It runs off of your standard 110. I'm gonna go ahead and spin this around and show you how to get it connected to the Monport Reno 65. So let's cover some features on the back side. If you're not familiar with a water chiller, on the very bottom is going to be your drain plug. You would simply loosen and remove this in order to do some water changes or flushes. Right here is going to be your alarm, normal and full gauge. You're going to want to fill this up till it's full. You're going to have two outlets. One is going to say inlet, the other is going to say output, and these are both going to be a barbed fitting. And you also have an alarm outlet. On this 65 watt unit, I don't actually see a plug-in for that signal cable, so we're going to ignore that for right now. And once again, they will supply you with the proper power cord. Now, I've seen plenty of people get confused when it comes time to hook these cables up to the water chiller. So you're going to locate the one on the back of the laser that says water inlet. The key word is inlet. You are going to plug that into the water chiller opposite of what this says. This says inlet. You're going to look for the output. Go ahead and remove that little plastic cover, and you will simply press the tubing into the output. Simply rinse and repeat. This one says water outlet, and that's going to go to the water inlet. And in the interest of time, just make sure you get these fully seated on these fittings. Now that we have our chiller plumbed and connected to the laser engraver, let's talk a little bit about filtration and how you're going to exhaust the fumes from your CO2 laser engraver. The Reno 65 does come with an onboard fan, and all you would need to do is exhaust this out an opening. Typically, you'll see people put this out their window or out a garage door. For our setup, we're not really close to an extraction point, so we do have this little mini fume extractor right here, and this is again a 4-inch hose, and we're simply going to put that over the top of this fume extractor right here and lock that down with a hose clamp, and this also runs off of standard 110. Now, one thing I will warn you, anytime you're using these smaller fume extractors, these do have 3 different filters inside, and it's recommended every 3 to 7 days you change out that first filter. The other filters are going to last much longer. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting pretty excited. We're really close to firing this unit up. Now, when it comes to filling that chiller up, always follow the manufacturer's recommendation. It is hotly contested whether you should run some type of antifreeze inside of that chiller or simply run distilled water. It's most likely going to depend on the environment your laser engraver is sitting in. I have a fully temperature controlled workshop. I have always just ran purely distilled water inside of my chiller. I'm going to get that filled up off camera. Then we're going to go ahead and remove all this protective coating, and I'm going to show you how to get this connected to Lightburn. Okay, we're just about ready to get this unit connected to the Lightburn software on our laptop. And if this is your first CO2 laser engraver and you don't own a copy of Lightburn, this is where you're going to want to plug in your USB thumb drive to your PC, and they have a tutorial on there how to install Lightburn for the first time, as well as getting the Monport Reno series attached to that Lightburn software. We have the Reno 65 Pro plugged into the laptop. We have Lightburn open. I'm going to reposition the camera onto the screen and show you how we get it connected. So in order to get Lightburn to find the laser, we need to power this unit up for the first time. So hopefully if everything went correctly, we will not give you guys a smoke show. Let's go ahead and get the chiller turned on. Now, the first time you turn this chiller on, you're going to want to stand by the unit. You will hear the water starting to flow through the unit, and you're just going to want to double check to make sure that you don't have any leaks everywhere. And the front LCD screen is lit up. Everything here is looking good. Let's move over to the front and get that powered up. Go ahead and reach over and disengage the emergency stop and go ahead and flip the main power switch. How cool is that? We now have power to the unit. The gantry is moving to the back right-hand corner. The exhaust fan is running. Everything looks good. Now let's go ahead and connect this to Lightburn. So inside of your Lightburn software, you're going to navigate down here to where this says Devices. Go ahead and click on Devices. To the far left, you're going to find a tab that says Find My Laser. Go ahead and click that as well. Go ahead and click Next. It is now scanning for any connected devices. And right there you can see Top Wisdom TLA1. That TLA1 is the actual DSP controller on that Monport 65, so that is the correct device. Go ahead and click Add Device. Now, it's really easy to skip past this part right here. I like to name my lasers because we have multiple lasers here in the workshop. So we're just going to go ahead and rename this the Reno 65 Pro. Go ahead and click next. One thing you can quickly do is verify the X and Y. Again, this is about a 16 by 24 engraving area. So once again, that is correct as well, which is a good sign. So obviously when we powered up that machine, that thing homed to the rear right, which is also called your 0, 0. So let's go ahead and select rear right and then click next. Now go ahead and click finish. Go and click OK. Now go ahead and scroll over here to the drop down tab in the lower right hand side, and this is where your list of all your connected laser devices are, and there's the Reno 65 Pro. Go ahead and select that. Congratulations, you have now connected your Reno 65 Pro to your Lightburn software. Now that we have this unit fully set up and connected to Lightburn, let's go ahead and finally remove the safety plastic all around the perimeter of this Monport Reno 65 Pro. Now the part everybody's been waiting for, let's go ahead and do some laser engraving projects on this Reno 65. That's going to allow us to determine if our mirrors are aligned or if we need to make any adjustments. For this project right now, we're going to be using a small piece of this rawhide leatherette. This is a faux leather typically used for making hat patches, backpack tags, and luggage tags. Let's go ahead and take this scrap piece of material and we'll lay it over here on the honeycomb bed. Now I've been laser engraving for over 15 years, so for someone like me, it's very easy to throw a piece of material inside of this laser engraver and get my settings very close. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and run this project. Once that project is completed, I'm going to share with you a very good way inside of Lightburn to run a material test. You will want to run a material test on any type of material, whether it's leatherette, Baltic birch, or acrylic. Let's get this thing fired up and see how she runs. Now that we have the leatherette placed randomly on the honeycomb bed, step over to the controller and use the jog function to get the laser module over your material. So we're going to click the left arrow, which is going to move our laser head in the X-axis. Then we're going to press the down arrow, which is now going to jog that laser head in the Y-axis. Now you will notice that the red laser indicator is over our material. Now I'm going to show you how to get this material in focus. The Reno series of laser engravers feature a semi-autofocus. You're going to notice this red anodized aluminum column. Go ahead and grab it with your fingers and gently press this down. You're going to notice that this will also protrude back up. So in order to focus this, we're going to go ahead and drop that down. I'm going to go ahead and jog that laser just back a hair. You always want to verify that you make sure that this is over the material. You don't want to run that down into the honeycomb. Now I want you to go ahead and locate this T-handle Allen wrench. This was inside of the accessory bag. On the front left-hand corner, you're going to notice this little round knurled knob that has an Allen key set up. Go ahead and place your Allen wrench inside there, and we're going to go ahead and start turning this unit clockwise. Now I want you to focus on the red plunger. As we turn this clockwise, that's going to start to raise the honeycomb bed and it's going to make contact with that plunger. Watch what happens when it gets in focus. Keep turning, 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 turning. Pow! Did you see that plunger snapped into place? That is now in focus, and go ahead and remove the Allen key. Now sometimes you might not want to rely on that plunger for focusing. Inside of your accessory bag, you're going to notice this acrylic piece, and this says 8mm, 9mm, all the way up to 14mm. If you want to manually focus your laser, we now know what the correct focal height is. Take this little gauge and you're going to slide this under the laser nozzle until it just touches that nose cone. Right about there is in focus. Once you've determined where the correct focal height is, simply take that gauge out and read it. We were on the 9mm mark. So if I did not want to rely on the red plunger, I would now know I simply need to align the nose cone down to the 9mm mark. We are now in focus. Let's jump back into Lightburn. So inside of Lightburn, you will notice we have an image in the center of this darkened image. This darkened image around the graphic is going to actually represent that honeycomb laser engraving area. I prefer to work in absolute coordinates, and as you saw, that leatherette is placed somewhere up here in the right-hand corner. I'm going to go ahead and grab my little graphic, move that up to the corner, and then now I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see that image. This is a 65-watt CO2 laser engraver, and it has a maximum engraving speed of up to 800 millimeters a second. When I'm running something like leatherette, I always want to run my laser as fast and hard as I can until I start missing steps. So we're gonna go ahead and find the black layer, which is what we want to engrave. That is now set to fill. I'm gonna double click on this line, and that is gonna bring up an additional menu. Our speed for this project is gonna be 600 millimeters a second, and I'm gonna start with 35% power. And anytime you're laser engraving a project, anywhere from 250 to 350 is a very common setting for your lines per inch. So we're gonna go ahead and stick at the 298.82 or 0.085, and we're also gonna run bi-directional, and again, our mode is fill. So let's go ahead and click OK. Now, prior to sending this job over to the laser engraver, we need to verify we're going to engrave in the correct area of the laser. I want you to pay attention to the frame icon right there on the screen, and we're going to click that one time, and I'm going to show you how that works. So let's go ahead and click frame. And as you can see, that just ran an outline of where we would laser engrave, and we would have clearly missed that leatherette. So you have two options. You could physically move that material up to where that framed, or you can move the graphic inside of Lightburn so it gets on that material. Obviously, we're running a scrap piece and we could move that piece around, but if you have a large piece inside of the laser, you might not be able to move it. Let's readjust the graphic on the screen until it frames inside of that leatherette. So now pay attention to that red laser indicator during the framing process. You will notice that it stayed on the leatherette the entire time. Now let's go ahead and send that file to the laser and see how it does. Once that's finished, let the machine return to its last known origin point, and let's take a look at it. We use a product called LA's Totally Awesome Cleaner. We give that a good dousing on the leatherette, and then we just use a small rag and we give that a good wipe down. That's going to remove all the extra soot and debris from the laser engraving process. And here is your final look at that leatherette patch. Now again, we ran this at 600 millimeters and 35% power. Sometimes it's going to boil down to personal preference. This little 65 watt really got down and engraved pretty far into that leatherette. I do think that looks incredible, but it did leave a little extra soot. That's a good indicator that you might have a little bit too much power. You can resolve that by lowering the power or actually increasing the speed. Now that we're back inside of Lightburn, I'm going to teach you how to find the optimal settings for any laser engraver you own. The number one question I get asked is, what are your settings? I want you to navigate to the tab that says Laser Tools and scroll down to Material Test. That will bring up this tab right here, and this is called a Material Test Generator. Now, it doesn't matter what laser engraver you have. You need to find the manufacturer's specs. The manufacturer specs out that this Reno 65 Pro has a maximum engraving speed of 800 millimeters a second. So the minimum speed that I'm going to run is most likely 400. I am not going to be running leatherette patches any slower than 400. The maximum speed, again, the manufacturer says 800 millimeters a second. We're going to go ahead and leave the height at 5 millimeters. Now we're going to come over to the second parameter, and that's going to be the power setting. So I'm going to start with a minimum of 10% power, and most often you do not want to run a CO2 laser tube at 100%. A little later on in a different video series, I'm going to show you how to find your optimal peak power settings and the highest power you can run a laser with a ramp test. For right now, we're going to leave the minimum at 10%, and we can run the maximum at, let's say, 50%. And once again, we will leave the width and the center the same. Now, if you come over here and hit preview, you're going to see a series of grids. That's fantastic, but you're going to notice we have no numbers on the left or the bottom side. Down here at the bottom of the screen, you're going to notice edit material setting, edit text setting, and edit border setting. Right below that, there's one that says enable text. Go ahead and toggle that on, hit preview, and now you can see how this material test grid is going to work. Over here on the left-hand side, it shows our minimum speed of 400, our maximum speed of 800, our minimum power of 10, and our maximum power of 50. Go ahead and click OK. Now, we just saw me run that patch at 600 speed and 35% power. Let's click on Edit Text Setting, and we also want to make sure that that is on fill mode. And then I'm going to stick with those numbers since I knew that ran. I'll do 600, and I'm actually going to reduce that power down to 30. 35 was just a little too much power. So we'll leave that at 30, 300, bidirectional fill, exactly the same. Let's hit OK on that one. Now let's hit preview. Now this is going to laser engrave our test grid as well as our numbers. So let's go ahead and send that over to the laser and we'll check that out. Once again, that red dot laser indicator just verified that's going to engrave in the correct area. Let's go ahead and send that file over to the laser. So right now the laser is going back and forth on the x-axis and it is laying out the power and the speed setting grid. Once it's finished with that, you're going to see it start to do a series of small 5mm squares varying at different speeds and power that correlate to that grid. Once this is finished, we're going to take it out of the laser, clean it off, and then I'm going to show you how you would look at this and determine the proper settings for your project. So even at this point in the testing process, you can see on the far left-hand side where the 10% power was at 800 speed, it barely marked that leatherette. And as it's progressing with more power, you're seeing those squares get darker and more soot build up. So we're gonna go ahead and let this thing run, and as soon as it's finished, I'm gonna pop it out of there and we'll review the card. So at this point, I would think this is pretty self-explanatory. We originally were going to run from 400 to 800 speed, and we started with 10 power all the way up to 50. If we look at the column at 667, by the time we get over here to the 50% power, that is eating way past the leatherette and down into the foam, creating quite a mess. So that is a setting we would not use. You're going to simply use your own eyeball and determine what material setting looks best to you. When time and money is a factor with laser engraving, I again am going to preach, run this thing as fast and hard as you can. So we can run this at 800 speed and starting at about 23% power, all the way even up to 45% power, that's going to give us a really solid black, a nice engraving. And again, that's going to be kind of personal preference to how dark you like it. I highly recommend you get the best dark setting with the least amount of cleanup. So here's another pro tip for you. We work with a wide variety of materials and colors of leatherette here in the Rise and Grind workshop. Now, just because we ran that material test card on that rawhide color, that does not mean you're finished with your material test cards. As you can clearly see, all these different colors of leatherette actually engrave differently, and some of them really need a significant increase in power, and shockingly, some of them really need that power decreased. So in order to save yourself time, money, and a headache and not ruin products, anytime you take on a job or you get a new material here in the workshop, I highly recommend you run a material test card and you save that file. You might not work with that color or material for a couple months, and if a customer comes to you wanting something engraved, all you have to do is reference your material test card and you know you can engrave it and you're going to know what your proper settings are. We've also worked with a wide variety of manufacturers of leatherette over the years, and if you want to know the brand we exclusively recommend, I'll have a link to that down below as well as a discount code. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you are still here with me, as promised, I have now walked you through the entire process of not only unboxing, but setting up your laser engraver and helping you find the perfect settings no matter what material you're using. If you guys gained any value out of this video, the Monport team was gracious enough to give me a very hefty discount code. That's going to be Rise and Grind. I would be honored if you felt like using that at checkout. That's going to save you some additional money. As of the filming of this video, this unit is on sale for an unbelievable price of $19.99, and you can stack the code Rise and Grind. And if you guys take a look at my YouTube channel, you can see I have unboxed and reviewed a wide variety of laser engravers, and I truly feel this is one of the best laser engravers on the market for the price point. As you know, we have some other desktop laser engravers. Those actually operate on a radio frequency tube, so we are not comparing an RF tube to a CO2 laser tube. I would highly suggest when it comes time to purchasing a desktop laser engraver, you pay attention to the maximum raster engraving speed. As I've mentioned many times in this video, the Monport desktop is able to reach up to 800 millimeters a second. Most of the competition out there on the market has a much smaller engraving area. On top of that, the maximum speed for most of your desktop laser engravers is only 500 millimeters a second. This has a true DSP controller, and that is an incredible value. I give this an absolute 2 thumbs up and have no problem recommending anybody pick one of these up today. So once again, if you guys gain any value, make sure you use that discount code RISENGRIND. I would also highly recommend drop a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of the video. Hopefully I helped you get this thing all set up. And as always, I make this content for you guys. So give me some ideas of some other projects you would like to see me do on this brand new Monport Reno 65 Pro. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next video.